Hello, you're listening to Reviewing History, your comedy history podcast. I'm filmmaker and teacher Brian Rupert, and I'm joined here by
Stephen Badagliaca
and
Anthony Galati. Hi.
Hey guys, so today we are doing Steve's pick for a movie, and he picked The Last Samurai. Have you guys seen this movie before?
You know I have.
I feel like it's one of those movies that like you had to see. You had to see at the time.
It's a movie I love. How do you guys feel about it?
I liked this from the first time I saw it, way back when it came out. I didn't see it in theaters, did you?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
I did not. I got this on DVD, watched it at home, and I thought it was going to be a bore fest. I don't know why. Like, I remember I was in the dentist one day, and I was looking at a magazine that they had in there, and there was an article about the movie, and I'm like, oh, fucking Tom Cruise is going to play a Japanese guy, whitewashing, and I got all mad about it, and I didn't go see the movie because of it.
So you were PC before it was cool?
I was PC before it was cool. Yeah. I thought Tom Cruise was trying to steal Japanese culture. I seriously did. And then and then I didn't go see it, and then I saw it on DVD years later and was like, oh, this movie's actually great. But going into this now, to watch it, to prepare for this, I had this memory in my head of like the middle being boring, and then I was pleasantly surprised when it wasn't. I enjoyed the whole thing a lot. This was a great movie.
Yeah, I have loved this movie. Like, I saw it in theaters and loved it. Then, like, at the time this movie was released, like, on pay-per-view, my family had a hot box, and it was one of those movies that I watched all the time. Like, any time it was on, I've seen the movie probably like 30 times.
Oh, so you got this plays over and over and over again on pay-per-view viewing of it.
Yeah, and I would just watch it.
That's how I saw The Return of the King animated. The Lord of the Rings cartoon from the 80s.
Oh, okay.
I was about to say, like, wait, there's a new one? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why I assumed there was a new one.
No, like, when the Return of... No, it was the Two Towers. When the Two Towers was coming out, I had the hot box, and they just kept playing The Return of the King cartoon over and over again, and that's how I saw that.
Oh.
And they had the Where is the Whip, Where is the Way song.
So with The Last Samurai, I was wondering what that was from when you sent it over.
Where there's a whip, there is a way.
I listened to, you posted that clip
I posted the other day on Facebook.
I listened to it. I really enjoyed it. What a ditty.
I saw the clip and I'm like, I'm not clicking this. When I first saw this movie, it was on DVD. And I think I probably watched about 5 times that week.
Really?
Oh, I loved it. I loved every
more than
second
I
of it.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, had you seen Dances with Wolves before you saw this?
Good question. I'm going to say no.
I had not either.
I think I saw Dances with Wolves later in life.
I think this was the first time I saw one of the movies where it's like, person goes to primitive culture, learns their ways, and changes. It was like Fern Gully and then this.
That's a trope
It's a
that
trope,
goes back
yeah.
forever. Like John Wayne did movies like I think it's called Hanso or Hansho, something like that, where he's with the Apache.
Okay.
And he respects them because of their primitive way. It's the noble savage.
Is there a
thing.
film
Yeah,
term? Is there like a professional film term for that?
The Dances with Wolves avatarism.
Yeah.
It's just
the fish out of water.
It's a trope, and it always works.
Avatar's probably the most successful, right?
I mean, it's made the most money, but
Right.
like,
That's the thing with Avatar. It's like I went to go see that movie, and I think I forgot what it was about within minutes of leaving the theater.
I remember. So
I fell asleep, I think.
me, you, and were you with us, Steve, when we saw that opening night?
I don't think so. I feel like that's a movie that I hated immediately.
So me and Anthony were at the first showing of it on Staten Island.
Yeah.
Midnight, packed theater, and all the talk leading up to it, this is going to change cinema.
Well, it was the 3D gimmick.
It was the 3D gimmick, but everything is about to change. Like, movies before, you don't know movies after. And we sit in Avatar, and within the first hour, there was a dude snoring loudly.
Was it me?
It wasn't you. And the whole theater was laughing, and like everybody walked out hating the movie.
I remember watching and just thinking and I'm sure we were talking through the movie. This is just Dance with Wolves. What are they doing?
It's a crappier version.
I remember one line from the whole movie, and I guarantee you know what it is. Fucking daisy cutters. There's some tough chick, and she sees an explosion.
So, Last Samurai, though. I gotta say something about this movie.
All right.
The score.
Hans Zimmer. He
Hans
don't fuck
Zimmer
around.
Does not fuck around. Score was incredible.
I believe this is our second Hans Zimmer score.
Is it? What was the first?
I believe he did Gladiator, didn't he?
Along with
Dick
Deck
and
and
Dance.
Dance. I don't remember the score. I'm sorry. I watched the movie like 2 weeks ago, by the way, so I may be a little out of
hazy.
whack with this.
It's okay, but it's a good score. Like when you hear it, like there was actually moments where I was like actually a little disappointed, but then I think it was like maybe the second to third act I started to really like get into it, and I was like, the score kicks ass, man. It was when like the training montage and all that shit. You know, that was when it really started to take over.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we should get into this.
Yeah, the movie begins with some narration about how Japan is created by honor.
Yes, right. The gods dropped the sword, and
Yeah.
what was it?
Like an
Droplets
ancient
fell from the
forge.
sword,
Right.
and they created the islands of
And
Japan.
it's the British guy talking.
Yes.
Who pops up later.
Yes, it's the rat from Harry Potter.
Yes, the Rat Man.
Simon Graham.
Yeah, but I believe
Is that his real name or his character name?
That is the character name.
Okay.
he's Peter Pettigrew to me from Harry
Peter
Potter.
Pettigrew.
That's what he always will be, the rat man.
the Rat Man. He kind of looks like a rat.
That's why they cast him. It was great casting. He also reminds me of our nude man metal guy.
Oh, God.
The guy that would pop up on a VH1 always talking about metal.
I see. You
That is
can't
an
bring that up, and
that's
we don't
so
even know like his
obscure.
name that we could get people to look this
That
up.
is so obscure.
But Brian is bringing up a joke we used to do when we were teenagers. There was VH1 used to make these metal documentaries, and they'd have commenters on them talking about how metal things were. And there was this British guy on there, and we just for no reason, it makes no sense.
No, there was a reason. There was a reason.
Okay, go
Because
ahead.
he would say like what the most metal
Right.
thing at that time was, and it was always something underwhelming.
Yeah, I think it just annoyed me that he saw himself as an authority on this.
Yeah.
And I think we saw ourselves as an authority on this, and we didn't necessarily agree with him.
He would be like Priest when they put on that leather cap, changed metal
Right, it was the
forever, and
most-
it's like
it was the most important moment.
yeah, and it's like no, it
So
wasn't.
we used to
Shut up.
impersonate this guy and just have him do gay stuff, in our impersonations, like Jerry Cantrell's nude beach barbecue. All of the major players were there, getting their rocks off,
Change the face of the world.
jerking each other off into the water, into the surf. Rob Alford, Bruce
Rob
Dickinson,
Alford.
sucking, fucking.
When he came all over the crowd, that was metal. And it always was metal. It wasn't metal.
Right, because that was that guy's accent.
British.
I
Found him?
I can find the documentary. It's called VH1's Heavy: The Story of Metal.
He was
It's a four-part documentary, but I can't
That
find
was the
any.
Canadian guy.
Which
The Canadian guy made that.
I feel
That
like it was
Sean
a,
But
Dunn?
Sean Dunn. But I'm sure that guy was interviewed in it.
I think it was a bald. I feel
was
like
a
he was
bald
bald.
guy. I know what he looked. He looked like
with
Phil Collins.
Thin glasses, thin rimmed glasses. Like
We'll never find this guy.
no, I
it
can't.
looked
Find
like the quintessential like actually guy.
But
Right.
his accent reminds me of this dude,
Right.
the British
I
guy.
can't believe you broke that.
So, that whole thing might be cut out. Anyway,
Anywho,
The
they're in the
island.
Old West,
Yeah, it's 1876.
San Francisco.
1876. They are doing a Winchester
Tom
ad.
is selling Winchesters.
Yeah.
It's a gun that is winning the West.
So 1876, I believe President Grant.
you missed some.
76. Let's see.
You missed an important thing.
Oh,
Did? Oh.
correct me.
The beginning is one of the main characters meditating, and he sees something.
Oh, you're right.
Why are you being cryptic? Just
And
talk.
this is an important. I was taking a sip. This was an important part because I was hoping one of you remembered. This was an important part of the movie because he's meditating. And first off, meditation's boring as fuck, on film and off.
Have you meditated? Mm-hmm. You're a meditator?
I was forced to.
By whom?
My teacher.
Really?
Yeah. We had to meditate to like calm down.
In
So-
class?
In class, in elementary school, and in martial arts.
That's a lot more fun than what my teacher forced me to do.
But yeah,
Brian got molested.
he got touched. But it's not molestation if he liked it.
True. True.
So he sees a blue tiger in the woods.
Oh, I thought it was a white
and
tiger.
it's like a blue hue. Excuse me. It is a white tiger with a blue hue, and it's like fighting, And he sees like a banner almost, and he's like, "Oh, that was weird,"
Who sees it? Katsumoto?
Yeah.
Okay. What is that actor's name?
Ken Watanabe.
He's in a bunch of stuff.
He is the token Japanese guy for Hollywood, right?
Yeah. At least he was.
I think he still is. Like, oh, we need a Japanese guy with like stature,
Right.
and poise. Like, we got to get Ken.
He does command a certain air of him about him.
He's a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
Anytime he pops up, you're happy to see him. You're never like,
He's like Jean Reno for the
yeah.
French.
Yup. Exactly. Like when those guys pop up, you're always like, oh yeah.
Shit's going down.
French roast.
So 1876. Who's president? Grant.
I want to say Grant. I could be wrong on that. I think you got that though.
It feels like
It feels right.
what the country is undergoing reconstruction at this time, right?
That's wrapping up, but yeah, that's still happening. It's the Indian Wars are the key thing here. That's what they want to focus on. Like it's the gun that's winning the West. He's selling the Winchester, the repeater, and
The 73 lever action trapper.
right, and he's a drunk. And he's angry at his boss. We don't know why. Billy Connolly's in the audience, and he had the Medal of Honor at Gettysburg. We find out.
yeah, he's a war hero.
Right, he was at Gettysburg, and he's been hunting Indians ever since.
And
he's a warrior.
Now he's a drunk washout, and he is haunted. We find out later, but we could talk about it now. He's haunted by his actions at the Battle of Washita River.
Does he say that?
That is what it is supposed to be with Custer, because that's considered to be one of the biggest massacres in in American history.
Oh, this is right after, I remember, yeah. This is right after the Battle of Little Bighorn. The movie starts like right after Little Bighorn, and Billy Connolly is like fresh from the 7th Cavalry. He wasn't there.
Yeah,
He was
'cause then
supposed to
would
be there.
dead.
He was
Yes.
supposed to
Tom
be there.
Cruise thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And he's there to offer him a new job. Right?
The only
yeah.
job he seems fit. A man's job.
So the Battle of Washita River is the biggest like wipeout of the Native Americans up to that point.
The Lakota.
Yeah, like Custer was just killing soldiers, women, children, everybody. And then there's debate as to how brutal it was. Like some historians say they were deliberately targeting civilians, and then others don't. Like there's a lot of conflicting reports about
Which is
it.
definitely not out of the ordinary for the time.
Was the Lakota like a savage tribe, or
The
were they
Lakota
kind of like
are probably
mediocre?
the biggest problem for the United States. Definitely around that time, but probably they were the fiercest tribe in all of the Indian Wars.
It was
them or the Apache.
It was actually Cheyenne in this attack.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, he brings that up. He says Sioux, Cheyenne.
Yeah.
everybody, yeah.
So basically, he went down Custer, and he instigated this attack, and he just killed a bunch of people, and then did like a withdrawal that was like kind of a shameful one that like got him a really bad reputation.
Custer.
Yeah, he lost a lot of respect from this.
And of course, anybody who knows Custer, he's a showman pretty much. He grew his hair long, golden locks just for so he would be noticed.
Paintings.
Yeah. Right.
Like Alexander the Great
He
painting.
was a celebrity. He was at Gettysburg too. He got some medals there, and then he became the face of the cavalry pretty much in the 1870s.
He also
Until,
one
of
of
course, he
his
got himself
one of
killed.
his stated goals was he always said that 100 years from now I want a controversial video game to be made of me where you will play as me and rape Native American women.
Did that happen?
Yeah, you don't know about this?
Oh, was that for Atari?
There's an Atari game called General Custer's Revenge, and like you could look it up online, and you play General Custer, and the point of the game is to get Native American women and rape them.
That was a thing that went on in like the 80s and 90s, right? Like you could make people would make
Horrifying
fucked up
games,
video
yeah.
games. Like I remember I saw this years and years ago. You guys might have seen this too. There was like a documentary on the History Channel about the Klan and like neo-Nazis, and they focused on this video game called Ethnic Cleansing.
Oh, I
Like,
remember that game.
You walk around the subways of New York and shoot Jews. Like, do you remember this?
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the film.
Right. So during this battle, like when they're killing Indians, is is he using that at Algren? Is he using the gun that he's selling? Is he using the lever
You would
action?
assume so.
Because he was really good with it, and apparently they said it's accurate up to 400 yards, which to me seems a little fake.
That's way too far, I would say, but
I did some research. It says about 200 to 300 is like
that makes sense.
the good point.
I know for a fact that during the Civil War, the standard issue was the Spencer rifle for the Union troops, and a lot of them felt that was not effective enough. Like it's a standard one-shot musket, the kind of which you'd see, in wars beforehand.
Like American Revolution. Guys.
Not that bad, but it's better. It's rifled. It has it uses the Minet ball instead of your standard little lead ball that you would have seen in like the Patriot. But they didn't like those, and a lot of them would use their own money to buy Winchesters and repeating rifles, things like Henry's, lever action stuff. But yeah,
Kill 7 or 8 Braves without having to reload.
right. And in fact, at the Battle of Little Bighorn, I don't know why we're getting so deep into the Indian stuff. It's a very small part of this movie.
It's a huge part of this movie. It's a massive part of his character.
Yeah, of his character, sure. But anyway, at the Battle of Little Bighorn, they say that the Indians actually outgunned the U.S. troops. They had better weapons.
Really?
That they had purchased themselves. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Privatization. It's always
Yeah.
going to be better.
So anyway, the bad guy, I forget the character's name, villainous American goes to Tom Cruise, and he's like, I want you to go make Japan civilized.
Is this guy actually bad?
Yes.
I don't think so. He's doing a job.
I mean,
He's been hired
Just
by the Meiji.
following orders is always a convenient
that's-
excuse.
But what did he do that was so evil?
killed innocent women and children.
Oh, with the Indians, sure, but we don't see him do that.
Yes, you do.
That's in the movie. That's like in the movie, we don't see him
yeah,
do
you
that.
do. Yeah, you do.
We see him.
Algren
kill-
has flashbacks of him.
Oh,
and
you're right.
He kills
You're
kids.
right.
They literally invade a village with no men. They just
Right.
kill women and children.
And Tom Cruise tries to stop him.
He tries to stop him. He's like, they had nothing to do with this. They're peaceful. And he's like, no, we're killing them. And they just.
Jeez.
That's
Yeah,
why
he's evil.
That's why Tom Cruise says, I'll kill whoever you want for money, but I'll kill you for free.
Right. Yes.
He hates him.
Yeah.
He says Japos.
You want me to kill Japos? I'll kill Japos.
Right, yeah.
He's
Yeah. So they're having a meeting down the block at the restaurant with the Japanese, I guess they're
Omura.
ambassadors. Mr. Omura, yeah, who is the quintessential Japanese industrialist of the 1870s.
My favorite character in the movie.
He's great.
I love him.
he's your favorite.
I love this guy. Yeah.
He is the embodiment of what Japan is becoming, because the Japan we're going to see as the movie progresses is kind of like the version 0 of the Japan that will eventually bomb Pearl Harbor. You know, like we're getting the beta version of that. They're turning into that, and he's the face of that.
If they're Pokemon, let's say, he's like a Bulbasaur.
Right.
And they're going to
Bulbasaur.
become
Yes. the Midway Venusaur.
So he says at this meeting that they have to kill the rebel group, which is the samurai,
Yes.
which is led by Katsumoto Moritsugu.
Do they get into that right there?
They say his
They
name.
say it's Katsumoto, and he says he's a samurai, and that's the guy you got to kill.
And they clearly, like, they're not beating around the bush. Like, they're saying it very early. Samurai, Native Americans, they're like clearly comparing the two
Yeah.
of them
Yes.
very early.
Oh, yes.
Like they're not beating around the bush with it. They're like, look, we don't need the
Right.
metaphors.
The march of civilization and modernism is going to stomp these tribal types
Yes.
into the dust.
It's like you can't fight progress.
How long was the trip that he took from California to Japan at that time?
You'd
He went by
assume-
boat. That's got to be like a week,
You'd
right?
assume it's like at least 2 weeks or something like that.
And
It's
boy,
not
are
a
his
sailing
arms
ship,
tired.
though. What was I
No?
going to say?
What do you mean it's not a
I guess
sailing
we
ship?
should talk about what's happening here as far as
The
why the
background?
Japanese. Yeah, we got to talk about the Meiji Restoration.
Yeah,
right?
I wanted to
A
get
little
into
bit, yeah.
that. Okay.
Because this is based off a real person.
Oh, totally. So, the Meiji is the new emperor. He had become emperor at the age of 15, and he is.
Well, we have to
completely-
talk about how he became emperor.
Yeah, I guess we got to go way back for this one.
Yeah,
We're
because
going
there's
deep. We're going deep.
This one requires a lot because, like,
Yeah.
even like I've seen this movie a million times, but I guess I never really thought about why this is happening. And like after I saw this, because we're doing the show, I was like I understand they're stomping out the civilization, but why? And
Right.
like, why is this guy still loyal? And like, I looked into it more.
All right. Context is king, obviously.
So the Boshin Wars or Boshin Wars?
I think we got to go back further than that.
Okay, let's go.
Japan.
Ancient Japan.
Much like the rest of Asia, did not modernize, did not have a renaissance. These are people that
They're isolationists.
are getting railroaded by Europeans, right? Japan sees this. They see what has happened in China. We talked about the Opium Wars before on this show. Did we officially? I think we did.
Yeah.
That had just happened. And Japan sees this and says, I don't want this to happen to me. So, quick history lesson about Japan. Way back in like the 1400s, the Portuguese come. And they bring two things, Christianity and guns. And guns are the more important of the two because guns are going to change the game, and the Japanese are going to be quick to adopt them and make their own. But they don't really advance the technologies too far. So when in the 19th century they start running into more and more and more Europeans, they're using flintlocks, from the 1400s, and swords and arrows and things like that.
And it's really Marco Polo who kind of kickstarts this need for them to change, right? Because doesn't he basically show up with a bunch of boats? Not Marco Polo.
Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Marco Polo.
They're both MP. they're both MP.
Way before
so
this.
yeah,
What
sorry.
is he talking about?
I meant Matthew Perry. He basically shows up at a certain point and is like,
So, the Genpei War. This is way before. The warlords defeat the emperor. And this makes the emperor very weak. He's a figurehead at this point, and the country's kind of run by these daimyos. These are like local warlords, and the biggest one is the shogun. The shogun is like the real emperor. He's the real
Would you consider it like a more advanced version of a gang?
Kind of. Everyone always compares it to European feudalism, but I don't think it is. It's kind of like its own thing. I don't really think it has an equal. The samurai, of course, are integral to all of this. They're like knights, if you're going to compare them to Europeans. They're the warrior class. They have a lot of status. They are feared by everyone, but they work for these daimyos. And
the daimyos are the bosses. They're the muscle.
And then above them is the shogun, and the most important shogun is Tokugawa, who wins the Battle of Sekigahara, ending this like civil war period, which is called the Sengoku. And for about 200 years, they have this Tokugawa shogunate, which is sort of peaceful, but they fight each other.
There's little
you have
conflicts,
these clans.
yeah.
Anyway, Matthew Perry comes along, 1853,
and he hadn't done Friends yet. He was like about 150 years away from starring on Friends.
Right, yes.
As Chandler Bing that we all know and love.
It's the same guy.
And I got to say, he looked great for his age.
But yeah, so Matthew Perry forces... Well, why does he do it? The United States notices that Japan is full of coal and is full of whales and stuff. They're interested in doing commerce. Unlike the regular European colonialism type stuff where they just take over places, the Americans don't want to take over the place, but they do want rights. They want business rights in the area.
For the most part, as far as like imperialist countries go, we were never really as brutal as like the Europeans.
1898 is really the only time we made a real go at that, and that was the Spanish-American War and like forming colonies and taking over lands.
Yeah, but we never really went like, we didn't go to like Bolivia and
it's against, on paper at least, the American ethos to have colonies.
Yeah.
Perry wants the place opened up. He comes with gunboats, forces it open, and he forces the shogun into these horrible, unequal treaties where the Japanese just get fucked over. This pisses off the samurai and the shogun, the other daimyos. So they're like, well, the Tokugawa is looking pretty weak. Let's overthrow him. And this is the Boshi War. Or whatever.
Boshin or Boshin?
The Boshin War. Let's talk about that. It is mostly based out of Satsuma, which is in southern Japan, which is a place we're going to be talking about a lot going forward. They're backed up by the French and the British, right? Western powers. I mean, did you guys read this too, or am I the only one?
I did.
I think you might be the only one here.
No, I did read it. I read it briefly, though. I didn't get into it.
I wanted to mainly focus on the guy that Katsumoto is based off of.
We'll get
that's
that.
later.
Yeah.
So, long story short, the rebels dethrone the shogun, and in its place, they re-empower the emperor.
Yes, who is the
Meiji.
Meiji.
who is 15 years old.
Yes.
Now, they say re-empower the emperor, but what they've really done is put themselves in charge with him, celebrating.
Exactly.
Right?
You're in charge.
Yeah, exactly.
You're our puppet pulling the strings.
Right. And this is when they begin to transform themselves into this modern state, this industrialized state, and this state that's run by a kind of military industrial cabal. Version 0 of what happens at Pearl Harbor. This is the birth of that.
It's kind of, you have capitalism really kind of running the
Right.
show.
They wanted to. They did it under this thing. They called it Shonjin, I believe. Sogo Joy. Sogo Joy, which is Western technology, Japanese spirit. That's kind of like the ethos of them, and that would be replaced by Western spirit, Western technology, which is what the movie's about, right? The guys that couldn't go along with that, they hated that, they got to rebel.
That this is the end for us. We've went as far, and this is called the Satsuma Rebellion.
Yes,
Which is what the movie is.
right.
And that is basically the last of the samurai fighting this overwhelming
Complete
tide.
destruction of their former culture.
Yes.
But they're like, Japan is unique. No other country has ever done this. Fought off colonialism by becoming what's killing them.
Yes.
So what we're seeing at this point in the movie where we're starting is Japan has sent envoys all over the world, and they are bringing back people that know how to do jobs that are gonna modernize their country. So you have American warriors, German soldiers,
French, British
industrialists, technology people. They're going out, they're learning, they're bringing it back to Japan and making Japan stronger and more modern.
And it's a genius thing to do.
Yes.
Like, as far as like building your country, it's like they assessed what is happening everywhere else, and they're like, well, we can sell resources, land, like offer assistance, and we can become stronger.
It's like Japan took what took the rest of the world hundreds of years, 200-300 years, and condensed it into about 20.
Yeah.
So a person born in, say, 1840, by the time they're 20 years old, 30 years old, the world is a completely different place than when they started.
Oh yeah, the Japan they grew up with
Is dead.
They cannot recognize it, and
Yes.
they show that in the movie in like one shot, which I want to talk about later. But should we talk now about the real guy?
Yeah. Sure.
So there's kind of two guys that he's based on. The main guy is Saigo Takamori.
Yes.
That's the main guy, and the other guy, let me get his name, is Enomoto Takeaki.
I don't know.
Takamori is the real dude.
Takamori is the guy.
He's the guy.
They both are.
No. Takamori is the quintessential samurai. Like, when the Japanese people would talk about samurai, he's the guy they would speak about as being the samurai to remember forever, basically.
But I think they did that after the fact.
Well, during his life. During his life, he was like the guy.
He was the main guy because he was leading the charge of like what was happening.
Holding
but
sort of
it was
traditional
really
values.
it was really that after he died, you had a lot of people in Japan being like, we like this guy because he embodied what we were and
What
you
we
killed
want to
him.
see ourselves as.
Exactly. Like these noble people
Right.
dying for a cause.
He reached
And-
legend status.
And the emperor had to give him a
Posthumous.
posthumous, thank you, pardon in order to
Right.
appease the people,
But
which is what helped venerate
Let's
him.
talk about that for a minute. I think there's a little more cynical way you can view this, and I think it's probably the more accurate one, because the propaganda that would come after his death really had a lot to gain by venerating him. He's one of the guys that overthrows the Tokugawa shogunate.
Yeah.
And the movie makes a big point of saying he no longer dishonors himself by using guns and stuff.
Yeah.
That's all bullshit. These guys have no qualms about using modern things. They're not these noble savages. They're regular people. They are really, what they're really rebelling against is not well, yes, in some cases, traditions changing. It's also they're losing their status as a privileged class, because there's no need for the samurai. Once the emperor is regained and modernism happens, you have a new conscription army, which we see in the movie. The samurai no longer matter. You don't need these warrior people that do nothing but fight their whole lives and train, because you can teach a guy to shoot a gun in a few days.
Yeah, you have boot camp for 3 months.
Right.
You're good to go.
So now you have this dangerous warrior class that's now obsolete. They have to go. If it'd be like America gets a lot of grief for what happened with the Indians, as they should, but you couldn't have the modern society we have if there are still Plains Indians running around shooting buffalo where people need to be farming. It's just the sad state of the world. You can't stop progress, as you said.
Yes,
earlier.
progress, like I've said it before with things, as far as modern America, eventually we're going to see a point where certain things become obsolete.
And they have to go.
And it's just going to happen.
Right.
And it's things I like, too.
Right.
Like what?
Movie theaters. I love them, but it's clear they're going to be obsolete, right?
So Takamori has a plan for the samurai, believe it or not. He wants to have them invade Korea and just take it as a colony. And it was going to happen for a little while because he's an important guy. He has a seat on various councils and stuff. But the emperor shoots it down, so it doesn't happen. And when that happens, there's nothing left for the samurai to do. So his message of kind of preserving what they are gains a lot of traction with certain people.
And they kind of depict this in the movie. In the scene when he is at the table with all the people and he leaves, that is kind of what happened in real life. Obviously, it's earlier because it kind of is what started the rebellion. But he was at the table with all these people and he wanted to do something. I can't remember exactly what it is. And he got pissed and left. And he was fighting with Omahawa, the main Omura, the main
Oh, you mean
industrialist.
He goes back to offer the emperor his sword.
Yes. No, but I'm talking about in real life.
No, I'm saying you're talking about that scene.
Yeah, in that scene, but he wasn't offering his sword there.
So I guess we should get back to the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've given enough detail on the people and
the players.
So there's one player we didn't mention that is actually based off a real person.
Who's that?
Tom Cruise or?
Tom Cruise is slightly based off a real person.
Yeah, I figured we would kind of get him at the end, but
okay, no, there's another one.
Oh, who?
There's another one. Yeah, the British diplomat Sir Ernest Satow.
But we didn't get to Japan yet. We're still sitting in the restaurant in San Francisco. Tom Cruise accepts the deal. They go to Japan. Now we're there.
Yeah, that's the next scene. So he meets with the British diplomat or / translator at this point, Simon Graham, and he's based.
That's the character name.
That is the character name.
Yeah.
Based off the British diplomat Sir Ernest Satow, the Rat Man.
Oh, we're being Rat Man now.
The Rat Man. You're the Rat Man. And in the movie, this guy is just studying Japanese. He might be the second biggest weeb outside of Tom Cruise in this movie.
I saw someone make a joke on Letterboxd that said this movie shouldn't be called The Last Samurai, it should be called The First Weeb. And I was like, that's a great joke. I wish I thought of it.
So my titles of each my notes, it actually says The Last Samurai, but The First True Weeb. And I didn't even know that was a joke made before, but it's so easy.
The First Weeb.
Yeah. I didn't look much up about Sir Ernest Satow. I think he was just a diplomat there at the time who actually witnessed this stuff happening. So I think a lot of the documentary, at least in English, came from him.
I like the way they use his character for exposition. He explains, he kind of gives the backstory of what the Meiji Restoration is.
Yes.
Very quick, much quicker than we did.
Well,
take a note from him.
If you're listening to this, we assume you want to know about history, right? So
I love what he does. He's like, if he bows, you bow lower.
Yep.
Funny.
If I was the emperor, I'd be fucking with people, and I'd be getting on the floor to bow and see how low they could get.
What I found kind of interesting about this movie and the way it's portrayed and stuff, the emperor has meetings with the foreigners. They meet him.
But it's an honor.
He talks with his council and stuff. Compare that to Hirohito, 70 years later. The general public has never even heard him speak.
Well, that's the shame of Japan when he has to speak.
Well, it's part of the restoration is the emperor now becomes this god figure. you know, and it's just starting at this point, whereas it's completely metastasized later on.
Now, the original emperor, right, it's believed that he's a god, like ancient Japan, pre-shogunate.
Yes.
Is this guy part of that bloodline, or do they find Meiji?
They'll do mental gymnastics to say he is, no matter what.
Okay.
You know?
I just wasn't sure if he was that bloodline
We're talking
or not.
1,000 years, 2,000 years.
Yeah.
What are we doing? We're lost. Cut this
No,
out.
we weren't lost at all.
Yeah.
No, I think we mentioned the diplomat who is the translator, kind of, and then he meets with the guys, right?
Well, Tom Cruise has a meeting with the Emperor, right?
Yes.
He's meeting with the Emperor and the General, who has a fantastic stash. Now, as you know, I have a firm stance on this, which will come into multiple episodes later, that you never, ever trust a man who has just a mustache. Don't do it.
So
It's never failed
need a
me
full
yet.
beard.
Full beard is okay. Mixture, goatee, anything. But if you just have the stash,
What is this line of thinking? Where do you get this?
it's just look at evil people. They always had a stash.
You mean like mustache twirling, top hat wearing, tying damsels to the railroad tracks?
I mean, I'm sure he's also thinking of your toothbrush mustached men as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, Charlie Chaplin, that piece of shit.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan. Why does Michael Jordan have a Hitler mustache?
I think he got rid of it.
Because he's evil. I guarantee you it's going to come out that he has a couple things in that closet. Watch.
That was actually his version from the Mirror Universe.
Ah, okay.
So now we'll just cut to the training sequence where
Great scene.
where they're training
yeah.
the Japanese army in what to do, and they want to send them into battle right away, and Tom Cruise says they're not ready.
They're not ready.
And he stands in front and he demands that this
guy kill him.
Japanese guy shoot him.
Utai! Utai! And he's shooting at the poor guy.
That scene is incredible.
Inform him
good.
that I will kill him if he does not kill him.
It's so good. And that's where I think the score comes into play really well early on, because the guy, like the scared Japanese farmer, shoots and misses, and you hear like this little Japanese jingle like doo-doo, and Tom Cruise just looks down in like shame, like he knows he's dead. He knows a lot of people are going to die right now.
But you know what's funny? Could you ever have enough confidence in anything that you would get up there with a guy pointing the gun and say, "Shoot me"?
He didn't care if he died, though.
Well, that's
putting him out of his misery.
He
right?
hates himself.
Was this
Yeah.
one of the earlier films that like did a really good job of representing PTSD? Is it me or?
I'm sure it's been done before, but
It's possible.
I do agree it is a good.
They handle it well.
They handle it
Yes.
well, yeah.
And he's also an alcoholic, and that comes off too. But yeah, so they have this cool training scene where it's kind of like a boot camp for them. But the conscript army is now forced into battle with the samurai way too soon. And what happens?
So they go and the samurai come out of the fog and they have to look like demons, right? Because you're Tom
Oh,
Cruise
yeah.
and you've heard of them. But now you're just seeing the fog and they got these weird ornate head things with like snakes and dragons. It's like, what the fuck
It's
am I
cool as shit.
fighting?
This is such a cool scene.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, them coming out of the
Yeah.
fog? Yeah.
And it shows that the samurai tactics are more advanced than what they were expecting too. Because as the conscripts are retreating, they get stabbed by like
It shows that technology isn't everything. Obviously, the samurai are outgunned. The samurai in this movie are kind of like I said this to Brian the other day. We were kind of talking about the movie when we shouldn't have because we should have saved it for the show.
you motherfucker.
It was brief. It was
I know.
brief.
But I kind of said that the samurai in this movie are the later Japanese propaganda version of samurai. You know, it's
Agreed.
like they're these holier than thou warrior monks, essentially. You
And
know?
not in this scene though.
Well, they don't use guns.
No. In
They
this
don't-
scene, they're very violent. They're killing innocent people who are just
Well,
like
it's a war.
Yeah, it's
Right,
a war. But
yeah.
like, they're brutal.
So there's a famous Japanese film critic who saw this movie, and he said, this is the best American depiction of Japanese culture. And he's like, I think that they did a great job handling the samurai. However, like, it's not too accurate because we actually mostly view them as almost like mafia thugs. He's like, that's like what they really were in reality. And he's like, this takes the most noble aspects.
Right. It cherry picks it.
Which, you know, you're making a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
There's stories out there of like I'm talking like the Middle Ages, of like villagers being terrified when samurai would come to town because if you look at them the wrong way, they chop your head off. You know, if you're a farmer, and they're allowed
so
to because
brutal.
that's what comes. That's some of the privileges of their station.
Yeah.
You know, they are above you. It's a shame type culture. Like the samurai are above the peasants, therefore they can do whatever the fuck they want to the peasants. You know,
And that's
free
why
of
you get those
repercussion.
like Kurosawa movies, you know,
Right,
Seven
Seven
Samurai.
Samurai.
You know, so you have samurai, good samurai standing up to bad samurai,
Yes.
Yojimbo, Sanjuro, shit like that. I do want to give one quick shout out to John Toll, the cinematographer on this movie,
Oh,
because the movie
beautiful.
looks beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Like especially this
Every
scene with the
aspect.
fog and
Oh,
like. Like he is a cheat code because some of the silhouette shots that they use throughout the movie are gorgeous, and silhouette shots always look fucking amazing.
Like you said
right?
before, that silhouette of them on horseback with the horns, and you're just sitting there like, oh shit, that's like actually pretty scary.
Right.
Like you see those drawings, and they're always like 2D and cartoonish, and then when you actually see them armored up, it's like, oh, that's intimidating.
Yeah, the dudes get mowed down by Beetleborgs.
But let's be honest, they still suck compared to an American captain because he takes out like 7 of them.
well, these
Right?
they're also hardened warriors. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
It's you have these new conscripts who've never been in a fight before. They're terrified. But among them are these Americans who have been fighting for decades.
Yeah.
They know how to fight. They're not scared of these guys. You know, they will fight. That's Billy Connolly and Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
right?
of
And
course,
Tom
yeah.
Cruise just kicks so much
He
ass.
kicks so much
Cruise
ass in
wrecks
the scene.
it.
How many? He has to
wrecks
kill at
it.
least like 10 dudes.
That's
right?
what I mean.
Right.
He kills like 7 samurai. Like he just kills them all.
And then he gets surrounded, and
He
he
gets
fights
surrounded,
them with
yeah.
a flagpole.
Which is I was getting shades of the Patriot there. Were you guys as he's using the flag like as a weapon?
Because Mel Gibson stabbed a horse.
Maybe it was a little
And
bit,
then he kills a guy in red armor.
Well,
in a pretty
he
cool
kind of
thing.
has a one-on-one fight with him.
Yeah.
And everybody stops and watches. Like the guy in the armor is almost like, this one's mine.
You're missing the ethereal part again.
Okay.
You're missing the ethereal part. Katsumoto looks at him fighting with the flagpole, and it has the tiger on it from his meditation, which is why he kept him
Man,
alive.
you're mad right. I missed that whole aspect.
That's why he kept him alive. Otherwise, he wouldn't have kept him
Right.
alive. But because he was meditating and saw it, he was like, this guy has a role to play in my destiny. I need to keep him alive.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is one of the things that I kind of disliked about it. It had magic.
There was a little bit of
You
magic.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I don't have a problem with that, though. You know.
It's a little like religious belief, you know.
There's aspects of that in real life. You know.
I guess, yeah. you could say
People
that.
have, you know, at least whether you believe it or I believe it, if they believe it, then it's real to them, you know?
Well, of course, yeah.
Like pro wrestling, it's still real to me. Damn it.
There you go.
So they capture him, right?
Yeah.
And then we see someone.
well, he kills the
committing
guy in the red armor.
Kills the guy in the red
We
armor.
also see someone. Tom Cruise witnesses someone committing seppuku.
Which,
Yes.
yeah, can we discuss seppuku, like kind of like a little bit, because it's a stupid thing.
Do you prefer seppuku or howdy catty?
Seppuku, I think.
I
It's a
prefer
better.
Harry Carey.
Hi!
Would you eat the moon if it was made of ribs?
It's not rocket science.
It's a simple question, doctor. Just say yes. We'll move on. A little bit of Saturday Night Live for you. No, a seppuku. It's nonsensical. It's a nonsensical practice. Why are you doing this?
To you,
It's very Klingon, you know. Like it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like I have dishonored myself by losing. Now I must die.
right?
One of our friends.
chop off his
One of our
Yes.
friends actually has to commit seppuku because of
Well,
you, Steve.
Well, yeah, and I have to be as honorific. So
Yes.
for those who don't know, because there are people who don't know what seppuku is, like you said, when you lose a battle, the person who lost, who is disgraced, has to kneel down and take a clean dagger and put it into their stomach and go like in a sideways motion, and their guts have to fall out.
You're not going to die fast.
You're not going to die fast. But if you don't continue the cut, let's say you stall in pain and in disgrace, your honorific has to cut your head off with their sword instantly, which is what we see. So if he actually went all the way through, I don't think they would have cut his head off.
I think they would anyway, because once you've done it,
Right.
it's them just helping you along rather than making you suffer. You're going to die.
Well, you're disgraced. That's the thing. You should suffer.
But your redemption is the act of doing this.
Yes.
You're no longer disgraced once
You've killed yourself. Let's speed it up for you.
Right.
There's no
We
need for
get
you to
it.
suffer.
Maybe that. Yeah. I always assumed that like you had to go all the way through
Right.
and you were supposed to suffer. Like that was the point.
The ritual is not punishment. It's your own redemption. It's you taking responsibility for what has happened, and it's regaining your own.
It's like a deathbed prayer.
Right.
You know,
just
you're
got
forgiven.
you got a lot of people killed. You have to die with them, kind of thing.
Yeah. Sure. But yeah, Katsumoto removes the general in charge of this operation's head.
Rest in peace, Stash.
Which seems like a successful operation.
What do you mean? They lost.
Oh, he removed an Americans, right?
No, the Japanese general.
The Japanese general.
Oh, the Japanese general.
Who was
I'm
also
sorry.
a
They lose the
samurai.
battle. The
Yeah.
samurai win the battle.
For some reason, I thought of him killing a samurai.
He is a samurai.
Yeah, he's an ex-samurai.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
And
He
that's
is
why,
He's a samurai who has moved on with the times.
yes,
Yeah.
and that's why Tom Cruise is disgusted, because he's like, you cut the head off a captured
Right.
dude.
Tom doesn't understand what is
Yes.
going on.
Much like myself.
Yeah. It is not a Western thing whatsoever. This is very much, in ancient Japan.
So Tom Cruise is captured, and my next note is, what is the samurai's goal? Which I think we've discussed, right? Like, what are they hoping to ultimately achieve?
In this movie or in real world?
Both.
In the
'Cause
movie,
same thing.
it's to hold on to their traditions, because Katsumoto says that they're selling out Japan to the industrialists, other countries, and they're becoming whores, and he wants to stop that.
Right.
And if he can get enough of people to realize that, and that's why he lays down his arms, because he's like, we're not going to use foreign arms, we're going to use our own stuff.
They see the new way of doing things as a betrayal of themselves. I think they know it's a doomed cause.
They know they can't win, right?
But they do try to. In reality, before they have the big climactic battle, which the end of the movie portrays,
Yeah.
they actually besiege a castle.
Yes.
And they lose a lot of time doing that. And I think what they wanted to do was kind of hold up in there and draw this out as long as humanly possible. And you have to assume that they're looking for a political solution, not a military one. They want some sort of dispensation to be made for the samurai class.
Maybe a deal made where they get certain
Right, where they're allowed to
positions.
exist and do their thing. I don't know exactly what they want. I don't think they know exactly what they want. But
It's like the Native Americans. What was their ultimate goal? I guess to just be left
to
alone.
just live.
Yeah, just,
Right?
just,
Like-
preserve their way of life.
And progress will
Right.
not let that happen.
And rightfully so, because if you let the samurai live, it's like you said, there's going to be people just walking around lopping heads off. How are you going to actually run a society successful like that?
Exactly. This is the first time, we should point this out, that Japan had ever been unified. You know?
Well, that was the emperor's dream, right? To have
Right.
a unified Japan in the movie and in real life.
Yes. And if you're going to have a stable, functioning civilization, they're not compatible with it. They're a medieval thing.
Well, how long have the daimyos been fighting? Like thousands of years?
Hundreds. The daimyos, they've always existed. You have ebbs and flows where the daimyos are more powerful than the emperor. Sometimes the emperor is more powerful than them. But there's never been a centralized state where everyone is like you always had.
Nobody answered to just like the
to
emperor.
one guy.
Yeah,
or one body.
one emperor.
It's like the unification of Italy or
Unification of any-
Germany.
of
You
anything.
have these little
Right.
factions. It's
And
just,
instead of them being separate countries, they're separate, cities run by a guy.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that guy has power in that region.
I kind of agree with the Japanese. It sounds closer to like the Russian mafia than anything.
Oh, you mean viewing the samurai as kind of thugs?
As yeah, because like one thug, like one mafia in Russia will control like the train. One will control the shipyard. One will control a town. It's
In
the
the
same
90s.
thing. Yeah, it's the same thing, right? Like at least the closest to it.
So anyway, now that Tom Cruise is captured, he gets taken back to
he's injured.
Katsumoto's
He's fucked
village.
up.
Yeah,
and he is forced to live with the sister.
we find that out. Yes.
Yeah.
And he screams for sake over and over.
She's
again.
hot.
Yeah, he wants to drink.
She's hot. I'll say it.
Wasn't a
I'll
secret.
die on this hill.
The treatment of prisoners in this movie is a lot better than Japan's gonna treat prisoners in the next century. 'Cause
Yeah.
they give you a hot Japanese girl to take care of you that is gonna fall in love with you. You get nice pajamas. You get to roam around freely.
Right.
You get as much sake as you want, apparently, too.
Well, no, they make him go dry. He gets the DTs.
Well, no, but he was drinking sake like a lot when he first got there, just
She
because
wouldn't give it to
he
him.
was in pain. Yeah.
She took it away from him.
I'm
And
not-
I think he eventually tried to get off it himself, didn't he?
He did.
Right.
I wanted sake when he was yelling, and I bought a bottle of sake for myself.
I don't think, like, in past viewings of this movie, I don't think I ever realized what a role his detox played in the movie.
Yes.
Oh,
It's-
yeah. Yeah.
I always just like, yeah, he's yelling for sake, and then I never thought about it again. But there's like this whole thing about him getting off the booze.
Well, it's like the clarity of mind, right? Like alcohol, your mind is all fuzzy. It's the metaphor of him becoming who he is.
This
He's
was just
unable
like,
to have a civil conversation with Katsumoto the first time they meet up.
Yes.
And then once he kind of comes in, he gets that clarity of mind, he's able to finally be a human being again.
Yes.
This is very much so like a 17th century 12-step program in Japan.
19th, but yes.
19th, excuse me. Yeah, like it's he has like a religious experience kind of,
Right.
and gets clean. And when you see these little like religious sections of the town, right?
Like the Shinto shrines.
The Shinto
and stuff.
shrines where they're chanting. I've always wondered, like, is that chanting similar to how Christians like sing? Are they singing
don't know
something?
enough about Shinto to even comment on that.
It's more like the Who's when they're like
Bahudore?
"Dore, ba." Yeah, that.
Singing around a tree.
Yeah. Holding hands.
I hope like if somebody listens to this and knows and would like to comment about that, that would be fantastic.
I mean, as far as Shinto goes, what I know about it is it's has an aspect of ancestor worship to it. But there are gods.
There's like tree spirits and things like
Yeah,
that. And I know Mr. Garrison comes around on Christmas and he
doesn't like
screams
them.
at you. Yeah. Because all they do is bake a cake, he claims.
All they do is eat a cake.
So then we get to the beat down in rain scene, which I love, where he has the wooden sword and he goes up against my second favorite character in the movie. I forget the
tough
dude-
guy.
The tough guy. The tough
They are so
samurai.
cliche. The samurai group that walk around the town is so cliche. One guy specifically, it's the big guy.
Yeah, the tough guy.
The big guy that there's a the tough guy's small. The big guy who just, if he was in English, he would just talk like this. Like nobody talks like that. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Nobody talks like that.
We should mention. So we have this long part of the movie that starts here, where he's in the village with them,
And he's
right?
learning their
He's
ways.
learning their
It's
culture,
the
yeah.
dances
Right.
with wolves, the Avatar, the Fern Gully
Yes.
thing.
And the little kids got balls. They like stick their tongues out at him and they make fun of him.
Well, what is he gonna do?
They
'Cause
say
he's
he's
gonna-
trapped. Yeah, he's trapped.
He's trapped. Winter is coming. He's not going to be able to go anywhere. So he's in their village, and he keeps going and having these conversations with Katsumoto, and they learn each other's ways. Katsumoto takes his books, his diary and stuff.
Yes, and he reads about Custer.
They're the same person.
Yeah,
They're the same person.
That's the theme.
because Katsumoto says, "I just want to know my enemy," and just like he was reading the samurai
reading about
books
the samurai.
before,
Right.
he wants to learn his enemy. It's the same exact thing. They're both warriors.
Yeah, they're the same. You know, they learn about Custer.
I like this custom.
We get that awesome scene where he picks up the wooden sword and he fights the dude, and he is just getting his ass kicked.
Right.
And he will not give up.
Right.
And you could tell the guy kind of respects
him
this,
for that.
But he's like, I have to just beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And he whoops Tom Cruise's ass.
And he's being followed around by this, I guess, guard who's making sure he doesn't mess around.
He calls him Bob.
And he calls him Bob. Bob rules.
I like Bob.
Bob's a good guy.
Bob is cool.
Bob gives his life for him later.
Bob
right?
gives his life for him,
Right,
which we'll
yeah.
get into because
Spoiler
that's
alert.
like one of the saddest moments of my life, really. And then he seems like he goes from learning the culture to slowly integrating
Well,
into
he
it.
starts training with
Because he
them,
starts
right?
training. He gets caught in a knee bar
Yeah.
by Tough Guy.
Oh, and he finds out that the woman who's hosting him is in fact not only Katsumoto's sister, but the wife of the guy he killed.
That's so that's like so uncomfortable.
Sure, yeah.
Oh my god.
And he's gotten a liking for these two little kids in the house
Mm-hmm.
who he's murdered their father.
Yeah.
They don't know that, if I'm not mistaken.
They do.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
The one kid does. I don't know if the other kid really understands.
The older one does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And as he gains a fondness for these people, he begins to, I think, feel less like a prisoner and more like one of them.
And
as time goes on.
And she accepts the apology.
Yeah.
They play baseball.
Right. But we're skipping ahead. I think the moment where the real turn happens, at least in their eyes, and probably in his, is the ninja scene.
Well, no, the ninja scene. He
was already
He was already
integrated.
integrated. Like his training is complete. There's the silhouette shot.
They truly trust him after that.
After that, yeah.
The training, the pivotal point was the rain scene. They realized that we're gonna beat this guy down nonstop, and he's just gonna keep getting up. He has something in him to keep getting up. He just is misguided. And if you remember what's his name? I don't remember, the long-haired guy with the bow and arrow.
The son.
Katsumoto's son. Katsumoto's son tells him, like, no mind, like you're thinking about too much, and that's when he starts progressing into
He's giving a real effort into learning their ways.
Which then they start to say,
learning Japanese.
He's also learning Japanese, which it seems like being a prisoner in a samurai village at this time is better than 90% of the world, I would say.
It seems like a good time. You get to practice swordsmanship. Awesome. While everyone is out having premarital sex, you're practicing
learning the blade.
But he gets the girl accepts the apology. He plays baseball with the local kids.
Tries teaching him,
which is I guess baseball. It's only baseball. I just looked it up. Was invented in 1846. So
I watched the Ken Burns doc years ago.
Okay. It's a rudimentary form.
It's not real baseball. It's
more like cricket, right?
It's a bastardized cricket that had they didn't figure out the rules yet. Who was it? Abner Doubleday, who eventually, also another Gettysburg veteran, Abner Doubleday.
Really?
I've been to his statue. It's on the battlefield.
Oh, that's cool.
But he kind of makes baseball. He gives baseball its rules and stuff, and that's in like the 1880s.
Yeah, that's later.
Tom Cruise would not know this.
Yeah, when they're playing baseball, just like it's an American thing. He's showing them something American, right? Like that's the point of that.
But also, he might have known it. He's in the Army.
Yeah, I'm sure they played some version of it in the Army.
Because it didn't seem like it's hard to tell what it was. They were all running around.
Look, I'm not going to break Tom Cruise's balls.
You can't break Tom Cruise.
Right.
He can't. He put his effort in.
So now we get the ninjas.
The ninja scene, and there's a lot of notes on the ninja scene.
Are ninjas? Do they still exist at this point?
Sure.
Yeah,
they're assassins.
Yeah. They're assassins.
They're just assassins.
So they outlast the samurai, then I imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you always need a hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were still using the samurai until 10 minutes ago. I mean, the ninjas are still going to be there.
You might even argue that the ninjas that were being used were just samurai being paid to do something else.
Right.
You know? But can we talk about the theater scene? Like the emperor of their village the leader of their village had time to practice theater.
Well, what else are they doing?
I don't know.
Again, this goes into the whole what I called the Japanese propaganda version of samurai. They're all poets.
Yeah.
You know, they're artists. They're enlightened people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I guess Katsumoto, he's also moonlights as a theater actor. He's a Shakespearean. You haven't heard Shakespeare until you've heard it in the original Klingon.
He's like a Reagan and Obama, you know. They're done being president and then they act a little, or vice versa. You flip it.
Okay, that makes sense.
What were they performing? I don't remember.
It's like
it's like a kabuki play.
Yeah, it's some pervert trying to get a girl, and like the emperor goes to get her, and he gets denied too, and everybody laughs.
It's not the events of the movie, right?
No.
Okay.
It's some random thing.
Because, like a lot of times you'll see a scene like this in movies and it'll be what we've already seen that they're performing. You know,
I if I had to guess, I would say it's some traditional thing that they were doing for kids.
This is a bad example, but the only one that popped in my head was C-3PO talking to the Ewoks.
Okay. And he tells you the story of the other two movies.
Nooch Vader! Chimney Choo-choo!
Well, so the ninjas. That was a lot of ninjas.
That fight scene is awesome. He saves the kid.
Well, Tom Cruise saves Katsumoto's life because he draws attention to the ninjas before they are able to kill him.
The ninjas were busy. They were too busy hissing.
Ninjas were hissing?
You didn't catch that,
yeah.
huh?
Oh, yeah, they hissed.
They were going... with their knives, and it was so
Oh, they're
confusing.
the Nightman.
Yeah, the Nightman cometh.
They did get the colors of the ninja costume wrong, though. Because they're in black, and the ninjas actually wore like a blue.
A dark blue? Or
The three ninjas?
It's yeah, at Mega Mountain.
what was the second of the three ninjas? Kick back?
I've never seen the
think.
movie, to be honest.
Yeah,
there
there's
was
one
like-
with Hulk Hogan.
I think there's 3 of them.
There are 3.
There's 3.
Yeah, I
One for
used to
each
watch
ninja.
them all the time. Well, it was the Three Ninjas cinematic universe. You know, you had to watch like Ninja 1, Ninja 2, Ninja 3, and they all connected with the first of the Three Ninjas movies.
Did they tie
It was
in,
the NCU.
Did
So, all right, those ninjas, like I said, there was a lot of them, right? How many could you actually get? Like, I just assumed that's why they might have been in the wrong color, because they were samurai.
No, I think it was just like.
How many ninjas exist? There was like
Well,
70
that's
of them.
my question. How many ninjas are around at this point?
I don't
Like
know.
Anthony's saying, because samurai are around, ninjas are around. To me, it's like we need them to fight something. Ninjas are sneaky. You know,
Right.
they're natural enemies.
this?
But
like,
I
like the mongoose and the snake.
That's why they're hissing. I assumed it was just like a small section. Like, how many assassins are you just going to come by and be like, oh, look, a ninja school. Let's get 6 assassins. Like,
I've seen Bond movies. There's always an assassin around if you're looking. You go to the right place, you know?
well, Algren saves his life. Algren saves Katsumoto's life, and that's when he realizes Algren is his friend.
Right.
And he says it because he gives him his stuff back and says, when I took this, you were my enemy. And he realizes that, like, yeah, Algren notices that my culture's great, and Algren's great because we helped him heal, and
Right.
they actually give him back instead of keeping him captured.
And what's the next thing that happens after this?
Oh, then we have more
They
training.
ride in
where-
town with the boys.
No, before that.
They have a scene that shows where he's become proficient.
Yes.
At the samurai
He speaks
arts.
Japanese,
Yeah.
and then he goes and looks at the girl as she's bathing. And
yeah.
he's a peeping Tom.
He apologizes. He apologizes, and she says, no, I'm just finishing
But,
up, you know?
but was he really sorry?
Oh, no, he was beating
and she
it.
didn't rush to cover up. I think she's into it.
Yeah, I could see it. He apologized to her for killing her husband, right?
Yeah, she already accepted his apology. So then they go back to town, and this is a shot I found very interesting because it really
It's a
depicts.
Western.
It depicts the transformation. Not just that it's a Western, but you see like power lines,
Yes.
and it's like, whoa, like this is a big change from when we were here like an hour ago, and it's been a year.
And that's how fast things are happening.
yes, and is that electricity?
Yeah. Telegraphs.
It's telegraphs,
Yeah.
but it's not. That was my question. It's not.
No, it's not like they have light bulbs or anything, but
Yeah.
there's telegraph lines.
They're on their way, though.
Right.
There's fast communication.
Yes. And there'll be railroads soon enough and things like that. You know, factories. You know,
Which is why
and
all
people
those
are wearing
people are
suits
there, yeah.
now. There's a
They're
whole
westernized.
Right. It's a complete
There's
culture.
cameras everywhere,
shock.
and yeah.
So they ride into town, into Kyoto,
And
or
they stick out like
Tokyo.
sore
They go to
thumbs.
Tokyo.
Riding
They
out with
stick
the
out almost
boys.
as much as if we were in Times Square and you saw a bunch of samurai rolling down the block.
Exactly.
It's that fish out of water. Like it's that level.
But the people still have a reverence for them. The common people.
Well, the people out they look
they were
scared.
running. They were
They're
running
scared.
away.
Right.
They're like
scared.
they're gonna lop my fucking head off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And the soldiers keep giving him shit. So he's been Katsumoto's been invited back to Tokyo. That's why they're there. They're not there to do some kind of military action. He's there to sit
Return
on this
Algren.
council and talk with the emperor and maybe hammer out some kind of solution to this rebellion they're having. And Omura refuses to allow him to enter with his sword. Right? That's am
Yes.
I incorrect
Yes.
in that?
No, you're correct.
Right. So this is a big thing. I know the Meiji outlawed the wearing of swords in public. And this was a huge problem for the samurai.
They didn't have a 2A for swords, you know?
Right.
The right to keep and bear swords.
So what does he say? He's like
Only
it's-
the emperor can get me to lay down my blade.
I think he says this sword serves the emperor and
Yeah.
if he wants me to kill myself. or
Yeah,
whatever.
the emperor can command me to do anything, and I'm going to do it.
Which now is,
that,
yeah.
as we've been discussing, that seems like that wouldn't have flied for the real dude, right?
No, I think it would.
Really?
He was very young at the time.
Actually,
He was very young, and they said his voice was too pure to be speaking this council, and I feel like that was kind of a thing.
I think it became a thing. As we've been saying, it's kind of like this version 0 of it. I don't know if those traditions are completely ingrained with these guys just yet, but maybe it is. I don't know.
But you think in real life, if the Emperor had told Saigo to kill himself, he would have done it and ended it? I don't think so.
I don't know. I'm
going to say no, because he's willing to fight.
But if you believe this man is a living god, then maybe it is.
Okay, yeah.
I just don't know.
Okay, that's fair. So he refuses to lay down his sword. We see that the Japanese now have howitzers.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, fuck, like...
Weren't they in the midst of, doing a deal with the Americans to get heavy artillery?
Yeah, they're getting heavy artillery, arms, they're getting a built-up military. The top knot scene, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So,
Katsumoto's
son, he gets cornered by soldiers.
Because he's wearing his sword.
Right.
And they're like, don't you know the rules now? You can't have this.
And they, insult him, right?
Yeah, they want to take his sword, but they also want to cut off his top knot to insult him.
Because that is a symbol of the old ways, and they are the new ways. Obviously, you got the short hair, the Western look.
They put up their arms. They tell him, "Give us your sword," and he's about to fuck him up. And Algren runs in, and is like, "No, stop! I'm the captain." And they go, "Fuck you!" They beat him with the gun, and he's like, "Just stop! We'll get him back later." And they cut off his top knot.
Right. They degrade him.
Which now, when that happens, and this is actually kind of more important, Omura's guy with the scar on his face has been tailing him.
Tom Cruise.
Has been tailing Algren, Tom Cruise, because if he goes near Katsumoto, he's ordered to kill him. He went near Katsumoto's son, and he knows now, because he tries protecting his son, he's going back to Katsumoto, he's going to be a problem, I have to kill him. And they go to kill him, which leads to the next scene, which is...
An awesome 5 versus 1 fight.
Awesome 5 versus 1, but Algren has a pistol on him.
Yeah.
He has a pistol, and he goes to take it out, and he realizes they all have swords, and he stops.
I don't remember this.
I don't remember him going for the pistol.
He goes for the pistol.
Notes.
He's backing up, and he's going to reach in, and very nonchalantly puts his hands back down because he realizes they have swords, and they're not using guns.
Swords?
His attackers, the 5 guys.
Are they army guys?
These are Omura's assassins.
Right. And Omura is about to have Katsumoto killed as well.
Yes, that's his plan.
Right.
So he takes out Katsumoto, he takes out Algren. There's nobody left to
Right,
support.
now the rebellion's over.
The rebellion's over.
Right. So Tom Cruise...
Before we talk about the fight, do you think the Emperor really just doesn't want to talk because he has such an unmasculine voice? He sounds like such a bitch. I wouldn't want to talk either.
He's young.
I
He's
barely
a
want
kid.
to talk with this voice. Imagine you have that voice, you sound like Michael Jackson.
Katsumoto, before this scene, actually has a moment where he does speak to the Emperor one-on-one.
Yeah.
And tells him to lead his people. But he's just unable to.
He's like, if you tell me to kill myself, I'll do it.
Right. He has... Every advisor is telling him this is what needs to be done. And they're actually right. Because given the opportunity, the British will be in there, the French will be in there, the Russians will certainly be in there, and the Americans, and they can't have that.
Possibly China or Korea.
Well, China's not doing shit at this point because
true.
they're being bent over back.
Right.
They're the example that they don't want to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that if they're going to survive, they have to act like the powers. So yeah,
he's doing the right thing. It's heartbreaking for
right.
the samurai in this film. If you look at it from they're just criminal thugs who murder random people, then who gives a fuck?
So then we get the 5 versus 1. It's an awesome fight scene.
Awesome fight scene.
Tom Cruise decapitates a dude.
He does this the fight's really fast, and then it goes to slow motion, then it goes back to fast and slow motion, but then he stops after beating 4 of them. And he has 2 swords in his hands, and he's going through what just happened in his head, with the clearest of clarity. That I don't know what it's supposed to show.
So what I think you're looking at it wrong. What he's doing in that moment is he's visualizing the fight using his newfound meditation abilities, and he's planning out the best attack to deal with the 5 of them. And they show different scenarios of how it plays out. and that's why it's going back and forth.
Like those horrible Sherlock Holmes movies.
I like those movies.
No, I'm talking about after the fight ends. Like, the fight happens, right? And he has 2 swords in his hand. He's sitting there kneeling down, and he's just standing there, like, in shock of the fight. And then the fight replays in slow motion with, like, this blue hue. The blue hue always comes back to that. And he's reliving the fight in his head while he stands there because they're all beat up, except one guy, the Scarface guy. And it's just, he just goes through it. It just goes through the whole fight. And I think it's just him remembering it with clarity and being like, oh, like, this is what I am now. Like, I'm a samurai. He becomes the real weeb.
The true weeb.
The
He's
true
unlocked
weeb.
the true
Yes,
weeb.
yes.
The weeb within.
In that moment, because then a guy tries to attack him from behind, and he hits the sword away and chops his head off.
He studied the blade.
Lops it off. He studied the blade.
So they rescue Katsumoto.
Yes.
His son dies.
Oh, they have that cool scene with the arrows.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob kills like 40 guys.
Yeah. Nobody reloads.
Yeah. It's a movie, They go back, they talk about Thermopylae.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise gets the armor from...
Well, they go back to the village.
Oh, yeah, they don't
escape
talk about
Tokyo
Thermopylae, yeah.
and are forced to retreat back to his village.
Yeah.
And now they have to plan
The
for
final
the coming
stand.
battle.
There's a scene with the kids again, where
Yes.
like the kid's scared to lose him now.
Oh, this is where he has
Yeah.
sex with their mother.
Is right there. He
Yeah.
fucks the mom. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have the payoff of the romance.
Yep.
Soy tu papa, he says to the kids.
I am your dad.
Yes, he says that's the kids in Spanish.
He doesn't say that at all.
No, he
made
doesn't say
up.
that.
I thought I missed that for a second.
You both thought he actually said soy tu papa.
I had to translate.
Why would he speak Spanish?
He's bilingual. They teach him Japanese, they'll teach him a little bit of whatever.
So, yeah, he bangs their mom. They talk about Thermopylae.
The kid's scared that he's gonna die.
Yeah, who cares about that? Fuck the kid.
They don't
Okay,
talk about
sorry.
Thermopylae until they're about
No.
to fight.
So it's
no?
Thermopylae, then he gets the armor. Then they do the prep montage.
Right, he tells him about Thermopylae, but doesn't tell him the ending. That's
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, so they talk about Thermopylae. He gets the armor, right? The red armor.
I like when he comes out of the house and the whole village is there waiting for
I
him.
said the same thing.
Yeah.
Why were they all waiting? Flagpoles and all, just like wait for him to come out, see what he does.
Hey, listen, I heard the white guy's gonna dress up like one of us. Let's go see. All right.
Some guy was selling tickets. Like, come on. See the freak. See the freak.
The tough guy was waiting for him just to check if he put it on right.
Yeah, he adjusted
He
it.
adjusts it.
But I gotta say, I love this in any movies when someone like lays a trap at the battlefield. You know?
Yes, you
yeah.
said
It's
it before.
my favorite thing in any one of these movies. Like Braveheart, soaking the battlefield in oil. Like, you do something like this, I'm always like, oh, what a fucking great idea.
Spartacus with the flaming logs.
Yeah, and it's like, why didn't they just do it further up? They could have set them on fire way back, you know?
So what, they make like a smoke screen, right?
Well, they let them
Yeah.
attack, they lure them in, then they light the grass on fire,
They split up their army.
and now the Japanese army is all fucking scared.
well, it was
they're
one
getting
regiment, right?
Pummeled by the heavy artillery.
The howitzers, right?
Yes, and when they put the smoke screen up, now they've rendered those useless. So they send in the infantry, and that gives them a fighting chance. So
They got close though.
Right.
They had to wait for like a specific turn, and then they pounced on them.
Yeah, and then they fuck them up. Then the American, the Tom Cruise's counterpoint, you know, who Tom Cruise found the ways of like the peaceful, the noble savage, you know. He found their ways. This guy didn't.
Right.
And then he comes down with the modern Japanese army, and Tom Cruise throws a sword through it. Yeah. Which,
So you went a little far.
Yeah.
You went a little too far.
They fight. The samurai managed to fight
Yeah.
off like the first wave. Of
Yeah.
First wave. And there's a guy specifically who looks like a hobo with a flag giving orders. He's waving
the flag.
He's
around.
waving a flag around to signal charges and to signal our archery, and he looks like a hobo.
You're right.
It was very, very weird. And there's also a sad scene. Bob gets shot.
Yeah, we lose Bob.
Yeah.
We lose Bob. You forgot about Bob, and come on, man.
Much like Dre.
Just like Dre. He gives up his life for Algren. And then the one thing that I like bringing up, there's a horrible superhero thing that happens here, which I spoke to both of you briefly. Oh, I spoke to Brian about this, I believe, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" Algren slices through a metal rifle.
That's just how good that
Did
sword
nobody
was.
pick that up?
That's just how good that sword was.
It's Japanese steel.
It's Japanese steel against more steel.
It's like Hatari Hanzo shit. You
He
know?
sliced through it. Not only did it slice through the rifle, it sliced through the guy holding the rifle. It was incredible. It was like a lightsaber.
What do you guys think of this battle sequence?
This is great.
I
This
liked
is great
it. I
stuff.
liked it. Yeah.
The real battle, the Battle of Shirayama, which is what it's kind of depicting here. They actually kind of do it in the movie. After that first wave fails, the samurai decide to attack. And in reality, what's his name? Saigo Takumori charges in. 40 guys make it through. That's it. And everybody dies.
What happened
And
at Thermopylae?
Yes.
Dead to the last man.
When there was no one left, he killed himself. He did seppuku.
So that is actually what happened.
And that is what happens in the movie.
There's a
Awesome.
debate about whether he cut himself or he had his head cut off. There's
They
a whole
do
debate
one
about
final charge in the movie, and there's a Gatling gun,
it. And
everybody
Knocks him
gets
out.
mowed down.
except Tom Cruise.
Except Tom Cruise, who is
He's
uninjured.
protected by his whiteness. his white privilege kept him safe from the bullets.
But then we get this cool scene after the battle's over, where Tom Cruise kind of forces. I don't know how he got in there. Who let him in?
Hold on, before we do this,
Right.
what did you think of him throwing the sword through the
the
guy's
guy?
Because I know you had an issue with it in Gladiator.
This one looked real. This one looked because in Gladiator, when he throws the sword, he throws it from like a mile away, and it's spinning in the air, and it's like this isn't. There'd be no force behind that. He's like 10 feet from the guy when he throws it through him in
And
this movie.
the guy in Gladiator is wearing armor.
Right. Yes.
He's on horseback and he throws it like a spear.
Right.
And he waits till he's really close. So it's a little
believable.
more believable. Yeah. A little.
I don't agree.
Yeah.
I'm okay with any time a sword is thrown through someone. It never bothers me. I don't question it at all. You throw a sword? All right, yeah, I guess it kills him.
Brian's just all in with sword throwing.
Because I know you had a problem with it in Gladiator, so
Right.
I wanted to get your thoughts here.
So now when he commits seppuku on the field, right, or he dies on the field, in the movie they all stop to bow. So little confusing because I'm assuming there's still enemies alive, like on the field, and they all just stop to bow.
That's kind of like throughout the whole movie, you kind of get the feeling that both sides respect each other. Mm-hmm. They've just come on different sides of this issue, and there's going to be war about it, but we still understand and
Respect each other.
We have this honor code, right?
I don't think that's what would have happened in real life, though, because the people who were killing the samurai were like the peasants who were getting their heads chopped
Especially
off.
those guys don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they're more than happy to kill these guys.
Well, it's a commanding officer who tells them to stop the attack, right? So-
Well, yeah, he tells them to stop. He doesn't tell them to bow. They all bow on their own volition. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it, but it just seems a little.
Well, they're perpetrating that or perpetuating that myth.
Yeah.
So Tom Cruise gets to see the Emperor.
Yes, he forces his way into the palace, into the Emperor's throne room. How does he do this?
Because it's the white guy.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah, wouldn't he be an
last
enemy of the
samurai.
state?
Doesn't you're not. There's a foreigner trying to get in the Emperor's chamber.
He just walks in with
Who's
uninvited.
letting him in? But he just walks in, and they're like, "Oh no, he can't come in here."
I think,
but then he just comes in.
Well,
I
they did
think-
meet before, and the Emperor did like him.
I understand.
I think
but
I can
he
give
never
you-
should have got that far. Is
Yeah.
my
No,
point.
hold on. I can make a counter argument that
Okay.
I know how he could have got that
You
far.
pretending to be the president of the United States again?
No, which was horrible.
Well, you know, those white people, they all look alike.
Remember from the real story that the character Katsumoto now would have, because he died, reached legendary status, and Algren was right next to him to reach that status as well. It might as well have been Katsumoto walking in.
Dude, I don't think any Emperor bodyguard is letting him in.
The Emperor bodyguards might have been samurai.
Still.
Well, the samurai are dead. We just saw the last one.
Well, I'm just saying the ex-samurai are still working for them and might have been like, this guy's on the up and up. He has Katsumoto's sword.
I'm willing to.
You
do
know what I'm
mental-
saying?
I'm
Like,
willing to do mental gymnastics.
I'm doing the
to
gymnastics.
that point.
I'm doing the gymnastics.
But he gets in. Doesn't
you
matter how.
you assume he's a legend at this point.
And
for,
the
in
emperor
Japan.
wants to hear about how he died and how he
And
lived.
he said, "I will tell you how he lived."
Right. Yes.
Not before giving up Amoro's entire estate, because there's nothing like a good dictatorship to make you feel good.
Yeah, the government just took everything from this
Everything
guy.
from this guy who just helped build New Japan.
Who just made New Japan. Yeah. Right. He's not that evil.
Yeah.
He's a dick, but he's doing what needs to be done. You saved my country. Now I will punish you.
We're giving all your shit away.
You wanted this.
You wanted it.
In that moment, he must have been like, "I should have just let."
You should just let him live.
Yeah, I should have let the samurai cut this dude's
Right.
head off. And then Peter Pettigrew from Harry Potter, Ratman.
Ratman.
He says that Tom Cruise, no one knows what came of him, but I think he went back
He
to
found,
the village.
to quote, he found a small measure of peace that we all look for but rarely find. AKA, he went to a town where all men just died.
Yeah.
He's going to drown in it.
Well, he's already got one hot Japanese wife. He could repopulate the village himself.
The samurais will just be, oh, maybe that's where all the weebs came from. Who knows? Wow.
So, do you want to talk about the real?
The real guy,
Real guy.
We already said how he died, but posthumously was honored by the emperor and kind of is the catalyst, I'll say, for bringing this Bushido code of ethics into the Japanese modern state and military. This is why, going forward, the Japanese will still think of themselves in this samurai way. And
Because of his sacrifice.
yes, and it colors their image of themselves. Like they get back to that Japanese spirit, Western technology, Western ethos thing. Through it's actually an important moment for them. Obviously all of this gets stomped out in 1945, but for a time they had a pretty fucking.
It's almost
unique,
100-year run.
Yeah.
Let's do a quick theory.
Well, hold on. I do want to say about the guy Tom Cruise plays Nate Algren, who is based on two people.
Yeah, I want to hear about this because
Okay.
I actually didn't know about this.
Okay, so he's based on Jules Brunet, or Brunet. I'm guessing Brunet. He's
Brunei,
French.
yeah.
He was sent by the French to serve the Tokugawa shogunate in the Boshin War
So earlier on.
and while he was there, he helped them, and he left the French military and stayed behind with the shogun. And he didn't leave when the shogun, he didn't leave even after the shogun were defeated. He stayed behind.
He liked Japan and decided to stay there.
Exactly. Eventually I believe he died there, but
The one true weeb.
oh no, he went back home. But he did stay behind and serve in the shogunate, and that's Jules Brunet. And the other person that he's based on is an American who's known as Frederick Townsend Ward. And he went to serve in China during the Taiping Rebellion, and he started the Ever Victorious Army, it was known as.
Along with Chuck Gordon.
And he joined up with them, and and he helped
cartoon.
them out. Yes.
Wow, it comes full circle, doesn't it?
Bro, this show is just Lincoln.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna link up again in a little while.
Oh yeah. We plan it this way. It's all planned out. It's meticulously planned out. And
There's one thing we know, it's
so
linking
those
and incest.
So those are the two guys that that Tom Cruise's Nate Algren is based on.
Nice.
What were you gonna say, Steve?
I was going to do a little theory. A little quick theory action.
Oh, theoretical.
Let's say, just theoretical. That's gonna be a recurring thing. The samurai win. The emperor decides that we have to hold our ways, and we're not going to industrialize at this point. World War II completely changed.
Japan now, it's going to be conquered by
Conquered by something.
It's going to be conquered by some sort of European country, or it's going to be split up amongst them, right? Or they're going to have a puppet government.
Well, I am gonna say that if the samurai win, I don't think there's under any circumstance of them going back to where past. Seeing as how far they've come already, you don't go back.
Yeah, they're just walking around, they're chopping down all the telegram poles. And
Let's
shit.
say the samurai win.
Well, it would be
I
the Emperor's
think
decree.
You'll get almost the same results as when they lost. You have this infusion of Bushido into the world, into their thinking. You know,
Right, but you let's say the industrial revolution there is stalled out a little, even by like 5 years. That changes the course of history, like completely, right? Like you're not going to get the same World War II.
in the movie, you'd be right, but I think in reality,
reality.
Are the samurai fighting for the end of industrialization, or are they fighting for a place for themselves in the society? You know, they're maybe they just want to be in charge of the military. You know, who knows? But I'm sure they know. But
Or new.
yeah, I don't think there's any going back.
Okay.
That's for sure.
They're looking for a place where they belong, like Chester
Yeah.
from Linkin Park.
Ah, yeah.
Was that
That's a Linkin
What
Park
song?
song. He's like, a place where
Somewhere-
I belong.
somewhere I belong,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it.
It's good though.
Anybody have any final thoughts on this movie or anything they want to
I
say?
loved it. I watch this every time I can get a chance.
how many times have you seen it? You think?
I've probably seen it over 10.
Definitely not seen it that many times. Maybe 4 or 5 for me.
I love the style. I love the arc. I love everything about it.
I'm going to say I have seen the movie probably almost 30 times.
What?
At least in bits and pieces, because I would just...
You guys have this fucking love for
Get
this
on
movie.
your last samurai grind.
I guess so.
Well, it's also that hot box thing for me, you know, where it was
Nothing
always
else.
on, and like it's a kick-ass movie, so I'm gonna be watching it. So this movie did make me realize something, that the director of this is fucking awesome.
Who is he?
I had never looked him up before, but when I say some of the movies he's done, you're gonna be like, yeah, this guy rules.
Okay.
All right, let's hear it.
All right.
What's
Glory.
the guy's name? What's the guy's name?
Edward Zwick.
Edward
Glory's
Zwick.
great.
Glory.
That's a movie that we're going to end up doing on this show eventually.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
Legends of the Fall.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it, don't love it.
Yeah.
Courage Under Fire.
That one I don't know.
The Siege.
That's a classic.
The Last Samurai.
Never heard of it.
Blood Diamond.
Amazing. Love that movie.
Yeah.
A, mo-
Where's my son?
a
was
movie,
waiting
a
for it.
movie that we saw together. Defiance.
Oh, that was a great movie.
That was awesome, right?
This guy's awesome, man.
This guy just there's a bunch of other movies I'm
just
not
does
gonna
epics,
name.
huh?
He just does
Yeah.
kick-ass like historical movies. This guy
You know,
Edward
yeah.
Zwick.
If you're gonna make a movie, make it epic.
And like,
Yeah.
and it's so funny that like I've liked like all his movies, but I never bothered to learn his name, and now I'm like, yeah, he's the fucking man.
Zwick rules.
I have a
Yeah.
quick question, maybe a little bit. No, it's on topic. What was the budget for The Last Samurai, and what was the box office? How did this do?
Oh,
It was a success.
It was a
we go,
success, but
IMDb,
I'm
IMDb.
definitely curious about what they spent on this because, as you said, it looks fucking gorgeous.
It's a beautiful movie.
So the budget is 140 million.
Wow. Okay.
But remember, I think Tom Cruise makes it. I'm not sure at this point if he's making 100 million a picture or 20 million a picture.
This is
this is his like high.
Is this the height
this
of
is his
Tom
peak.
Cruise?
Yeah, this was his peak.
Is this pre him jumping on Oprah's couch?
Yeah, he hasn't jumped on her couch yet.
And he had Mission Impossible's out.
Right.
He was up there.
He only had 2 out at this point. The third one really hadn't come out. The third one is like I think 3 or 4 years away.
You know, I've never seen any of those.
Really? Not
Never
even,
saw a single
Not
Mission
even the
Impossible.
90s one?
Nope.
Dude,
Are they great?
Yeah,
you would
you
love.
should watch it.
You definitely would love the first one from the 90s.
Yeah, the first one's good.
Gene Reno's in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Godzilla.
So
Say no more.
So the movie, now it's an episode of our show because Godzilla came up. 99 Godzilla. Every episode we bring it up. So the budget was 140 million and it
Exactly the
made
second time I brought it.
456 million.
Wow.
And it
killed
it
it.
had a bunch of Academy Award nominations.
It did.
Yes, Best Supporting Actor, Ken Watanabe.
He should
Did he
have won.
win?
He should have
He
won.
did not win.
He
Who
should have
won?
won
It,
that.
who won that year? I don't
It's
know.
gonna
I'm
be
not
some
gonna look
bullshit.
it up.
It's gonna make us angry.
But it wasn't. It didn't win a single Oscar.
What year was this? 2003?
2003.
Bring that up. Bring up who won these awards against The Last Samurai. It's gonna be
Was
something.
it nominated for Best Picture? No, right?
No, it wasn't. But it had like art awards and everything.
Probably
and-
fucking Romeo Must Die or something.
Oh, I'd be
Or
so
Chicago.
upset. I'd be so upset.
Remember Chicago?
Ooh, that's a good guess actually, but
I think Chicago.
that might have been later.
Chicago beat Gangs of New York in 2002.
How? You know what? I'm not even gonna get into
So
that.
he lost the Best Supporting Actor to Tim Robbins.
I like Tim
in the
Robbins.
film Mystic River, which
Oh,
is
the
a,
Mystic-
that's a good
Mystic
movie.
River is
Mother
good.
likes
Yeah,
It's a good
okay.
movie.
All right.
Yeah. So good movie. I love it.
1 out of 10. Oh, what out of 10? Not 1.
But you have to say it in Japanese.
Yeah.
Hi. I don't know. Is that a number?
I don't know.
That's yes.
I'm going to say it is an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
8 out of 10. Very high.
I can,
Yeah.
I think I actually concur with that. I'd probably give it a nice
I'm going to
8
give it a
out of 10.
7 just to be that guy.
You're gonna be that guy?
Not even 7.5? We can't get you up halfway?
7.5.
Wow. Okay.
Look, it's not one of the best movies ever, right?
I mean,
Maybe.
8 isn't the best movie ever, but 8's like it's strong.
I'm giving it a 7.
All right.
Domo arigato for listening, gang.
Yeah. So that I think that.
Wow, you waited until the end to make that reference. Holy crap.
I like sticks. Not really. They suck.
You don't like "Come Sail Away"?
Oh, terrible. Terrible song.
What about when Cartman sings?
That's
it?
great. That's the
It's a better version.
yeah. That's the one. That's the definitive version.
That'll do it for this episode of Reviewing History. Want to give a shout out, as always, to Tell 'em Steve Dave, letting us record down in beautiful Tell 'em Steve Dave TESD Studios down in Hazlet, New Jersey. Come down, visit, say hi to Get 'em, buy some merch, take a tour of the studio. Highly recommend it. It's
Sign
such
the
a cool
wall.
place. Yeah, sign the wall.
I signed the wall.
We all did.
Yeah. Come down, hang out. If you want to send us an email, you can reach us at reviewinghistorypod@gmail.com. You want to talk to us, ask any questions about history, recommend something you'd like us to talk about.
Hey, we're on social media.
We are on social
yeah,
media.
yeah.
Yeah, we have a Twitter. We have an Instagram that should be Reviewing History Pod on all of those. Definitely give us a follow.
We got a Fosh book too.
We do have a Facebook as well, yes.
I made a logo.
Beaver made a logo.
I made a logo.
Come follow me personally on my Twitter at Brian Rupert. Check out my Letterboxd. I review every single movie I watch. I have a list going of every movie that we watch for the podcast, ranking them. I believe Steve and Anthony are going to create theirs as well.
I created
soon.
mine. I didn't do
created
anything
yours.
yet, but I created it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll post that in the show notes, and once Anthony gets his, we'll post that in the show notes as well, and you could just see where we rank things, and I'm writing detailed reviews. I don't expect that of these guys. I have fun doing it.
I might write like a sentence or two.
Yeah, you don't have to go
I
crazy
don't
like
want, you're
me.
you're the crazy one. Yeah,
Well,
you-
I just enjoy doing it. Other than that, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.